Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Carson Wentz should be looking over his shoulder.
And I'm Cowherd, and I'll tell you why people are starting to agree with me about Russell Westbrook.
Yes, they
Speak
are.
for yourself starts now.
Right now, I don't fully agree with you on the
Dr.
Westbrook
Evil.
topic today, but
Maybe I'm
get
right.
close. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by former NBA All-Star Kenyon Martin and Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's start in Cleveland, where LeBron James and the Cavaliers put the Raptors out of their misery last night, embarrassing Toronto with a sweep that nobody saw coming. After a tough first round, the Cavaliers looked like a completely different team in this series, and LeBron talked about staying confident despite early struggles.
Listen, at the end of the day, I understand that a series isn't won until you win 4. So me personally, my confidence never wavers. It's just who I am. I believe in what I bring to the table, what I can provide to our team, and I believe in my teammates. It's impossible for me to lose confidence in our ball club, no matter what the stakes are, or where we're down, because if I do, then where are we going to go from a team aspect? So
LeBron definitely got more help in round 2 than in round 1, with huge jumps across the board in the stats of his supporting cast. Cowherd, all of this is making me believe LeBron may stay in Cleveland.
No,
what do you think?
I think the opposite. Listen, man, all of us work our entire lives to have options. He's in year 15. Lakers want him, and Houston wants him, and the Spurs want him, and the Knicks want him, and Philly wants him. Those are just the good teams.
Keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm just naming the good teams. Minnesota would take him, and Utah would take him. It's like, you work your whole life. This is a guy that's always sought the best available option. He's never had this many options. Outside of Golden State, the whole league would take him, and he could be a challenger for a title tomorrow. I don't get staying.
He's 44-8 in the Eastern Conference since returning to Cleveland. He looks like he's headed towards the NBA Finals. What's so bad? What's the matter with Cleveland? Go to LA and face Houston and Golden State just to get into the NBA Finals? You could get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. He has things on lock in Cleveland. He gets to run the franchise the way that he wants. His value's never been higher. Dan Gilbert is going to acquiesce. They may go out and get him another piece in Cleveland. Why leave?
I'm with you. I've been saying it since all this whole mess started. LeBron the Lakers, LeBron the Clippers, LeBron here, LeBron there. Why leave? Like, you have do everything that you ask. No matter what your relationship is with the owner, they do whatever. So why would you mess with that? You know what I'm saying? They go and get whoever. Okay, the thing didn't work with Isaiah Thomas trade. What do they do? Listen, man, I need y'all to do this. Blow the team up. Now you're going to Eastern Conference Finals with doing it your way. Like you said, going into the West or another team, it makes no sense unless you're going to the Knicks right now. You know, with Fizdale, but I can't see him leaving, man, because everything is laid out for you to be successful in the East. And if you're about winning championships, it's all the easiest thing that you're saying, smarter, not harder, right?
Right.
Why go to the West? That's harder.
I'm from Cleveland, so I would like nothing more than LeBron to stay there and finish his career there. But if this season plays out the way we all, let's be honest, think it's going to, they get to the finals and they get bashed 4-0, 4-1 by Golden State, even if he wants to stay, if his goal is winning more championships, I hate to say it, I almost think he has to leave. Now, I agree. I don't think going to the Lakers or going to the West is the place to go, because you got to battle with Houston and Golden State and all them. And if you go to Houston, you don't know how that's going to fit. I think Philly is the place to go if he's going to leave, because I think last night you saw Ben Simmons playing off the ball and actually being effective with T.J. McConnell in there. And LeBron, I'm told, wants to play off the ball, so he let Simmons handle the rock. And remember, they stay in the East, Kenyon. So I get staying in the East. But with Embiid and Simmons, I think they'd have a chance to win a championship.
But I think that him going to Philly stunts Ben Simmons' growth.
Even if LeBron gets off the ball.
He's not capable of getting off the ball.
Look, I feel you. I've talked to some of the people close to him, and they say he wants to play off the. I get it, because your game is your game.
Want to?
I want to eat a salad
one
every
thing,
day, Chris. I want to eat a salad every day.
But hold on, we saw Chris Paul. Chris Paul has done it. Chris Paul
Has he?
You compare Chris Paul to LeBron
No, but
James?
I mean, he's
it's
got
way
off the ball.
different. It's way different, man. It's a way different
I
aspect.
do feel that. I get that.
But-
But I'm just saying, if he's willing to play off the ball,
I think
it's a
Chris,
no-brainer. You're right.
explain
He
this
might
to
not.
me, because I legitimately
Cleveland
don't know.
can't win it.
I legitimately don't know. Explain this to me.
You don't think they can?
Cleveland can't add a piece during the offseason? They can't make any
Their
moves?
assets will be Kevin Love and that top
If
draft.
they
pick
locked
that.
in how they were locked in them last 3 games,
They
throughout
can beat Golden State.
I think so, man.
Okay, look.
I
Well,
I think so. I'm
what
not saying it's
I'll
going
give
to
you
happen. But the
is-
way they've been locked in the last 3 games, minus game 1 against Toronto, the way that they evolved from the Indiana series to this series, I think them guys know what they are now. You know what I'm saying?
I'll
And
give you that. Look, if they get to the finals, and obviously if they
Yeah.
win it, or if they play them tough, like
Yes.
it's a tough 6 or 7, then stay. But if they get drilled, and remember last year they had Kyrie Irving and still got drilled.
I'm
He
with you.
just told you, LeBron did. He's not giving up on these teammates and what he provides to a team. He believes anything is possible.
Well,
Seriously.
Well, let's see.
He's saying
Anything
that.
Yeah.
he's proven it.
By the way, let's
He's
be honest.
proven
But during the regular season, he's like, get us some help. He just knows right now it's no point
By the
in
way,
saying that.
I think let's look at the East next year, Boston.
Yeah.
Forget Philly for a second. Kyrie, Tatum, Jalen, Horford, Gordon Hayward, Rozier. Okay, that's really close to Golden State.
And a great coach.
So you can say you got 2 great teams. Doesn't matter where he plays. So why wouldn't he choose the best group of available players?
I think
You're not beating this unit.
Where is that?
Well, Philadelphia, Houston, Kawhi and him in San Antonio.
Not going to Houston. It'll be smarter move for Kawhi to leave San Antonio to get from under Pop to go play for somebody else. I can't. And LeBron going to the Lakers stunts Ingram's growth, Ball's growth, Kuzma's growth.
But you don't mind
Like-
stunting their growth. They might not be that good anyway.
No, but you don't. But you don't know though.
But
I'm saying, but
Why
you
couldn't
draft them
Kawhi
guys
Leonard end
2,
up in
3,
Cleveland?
2
Tell me why
in the
Kawhi
draft for a
Leonard
reason.
can't end up in
What can he
Cleveland.
give
I don't
I'll
see
tell you
why. I think he can.
If Pop's gonna trade Kawhi, he's probably gonna send him to the East, which is smart. Boston could put together a better offer than Cleveland.
Yes.
Cleveland could give, let's say, what's their best offer? Kevin Love
And a
and
draft
the
pick.
#1 pick. Boston, if they want it, could offer Jason Tatum and next year's Sacramento pick, which will be lottery.
Yes.
They could offer Kyrie Irving.
And if I'm Adam Silver, I finally do something David Stern like and stop that from happening. He would be the NBA. No, did they not do it with Chris Paul? Did they not?
But that wasn't
that
because-
was weak too.
Do what's
yeah,
in
that
the
was
best
not.
interest
He
of
was the
league.
owner of the team at that point.
Do what's in the best interest of the league. LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard in Cleveland with that Boston team. That would be in the best interest of the NBA.
Well, yeah,
As
How about
fans,
LeBron
we
in
would-
Philly? You don't think people would love to see? Because Philly, Kenyon, I think Philly, with all that length and LeBron James as a closer finisher, they have some shooters. I think they could potentially beat Golden State.
This time of year brings us 2 things, graduations and Father's Day, and the gifts that go along with them. Before you buy Dad another tie or that grad a balloon that will probably float away, ask yourself this: does my dad or grad like wings or sports, or better yet, both? If the answer is yes, then get them a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Right now, if you purchase $30 worth or more in-store or online, they'll give you a $5 bonus to keep for yourself. That's a gift that gives back. How generous of you. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, sports. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's move to the Raptors, whose future appears to be up for debate as well. Reportedly, executives around the league expect the team to fire coach Dwayne Casey after getting bounced from the playoffs by LeBron 3rd straight year. Whitlock, Toronto need to fire Casey?
Listen, I don't think this is something that's a horrible look for Dwayne Casey. He's had a good run in Toronto. If they feel like they need a new voice, because I think it's easier to move on from the coach than it is from all the players. I think a new coach should be a part of the process of perhaps tweaking the roster of this team. I think Dwayne Casey will land on his feet, get another head coaching opportunity, if not this offseason, next offseason. It's not a indictment of Dwayne Casey if they move on from him.
Well, I think getting fired is an indictment on anybody. Let me defend Dwayne Casey here. I grew up in Seattle. Not every franchise is built to win championships. Seattle, because of their geographic isolation, Free agents don't want to travel that much. They don't want to be in a plane 30% more than the rest of baseball players. Seattle's never going to be a dominant franchise. Free agents just don't want to be in a plane. You're by Alaska, okay?
You talking about the Seahawks?
No, I'm talking Mariners. Seahawks have 8 road games. Mariners have 81 road games.
The Sonics were a good franchise.
Okay, again, 40 road games. Toronto is not built to win titles. Canadian taxes. It's the only Canadian team. By the way, if you're going to go east,
Just
you're going to go
satisfied.
to New York,
Be satisfied.
Miami, Philadelphia.
Just be
I'm not
satisfied.
saying be
Raise
satisfied.
the white flag.
No, but I'm saying.
Canada,
By the way,
Colin has written you out of the NBA.
no, what I'm
Raise the
saying
white
is
flag.
Except hockey.
all these greedy owners, they keep adding teams. They're not all built to win titles. How can Tampa Bay, in a sport without a salary cap, compete with the Yankees? We didn't have the Tampa Bay Rays in the 60s, 70s. I just don't think that. I just think you said it a week ago.
Give up. All right, Colin, go ahead.
Look, I actually tend to agree with both of you. I mean, look, Toronto has to accept. Dwayne Casey's done a great job there. And, you know, every time they've had a superstar, he's left.
Yes.
You know, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Chris Bosh, they don't want to stay there. So now they got 2 stars. Lowry was a journeyman before he got there and became a star. And you got a bunch of international guys that are happy to be there, that might stay. That's not a championship team. Casey's gotten them as far as they can go. But you're right. If the voice, and I don't know this, but if the voice is worn out, then that might be the only.
It's going to come off a little crude, but like you said, they got a bunch of international guys on their team. Probably want to come get some of the good old American boys to try to help y'all do something. You know what I'm saying?
That they should go. But they
that's
won't
my whole
stay.
thing. But you
You
try.
know that. The
try.
stars won't.
But you got to try eventually. You got to keep trying. But like they just in a tough spot, man. Like they're in the East and they running up against a buzzsaw every year.
They get swept
it's
2
a tough
years
spot.
in a
That's
row.
LeBron.
It's a tough spot.
Yeah.
The
I think
Pacers
They
we-
might be the
listen,
second
yo,
best team in the
Pacers
East.
I
didn't
might
get
be
swept.
wrong, but I think we swept the Detroit Pistons twice before they won it. When I was with the
Swept them.
Nets.
There you go. Swept them.
Was Larry Brown the coach?
No.
So
I
the
don't-
Pistons went
Might
out and
have
got
been.
Larry Brown.
Yeah, they needed
They
some help.
They went out and got the right coach. Look, I'm looking at Brad Stevens and what he's doing. You have to try. And again, they're not easy to find. But you got to go out and try to find your next coach. Dwayne Casey will get another job. This isn't a Mark Jackson situation where he's antagonized the franchise and has any dirt on his reputation.
So you're going to try to find
He's
the
done a
next
great
Brad
job.
Stevens?
Yeah,
I don't think a college coach is the right move. I don't think a college coach is the right move. There's enough guys
I'm
that's
just
qualified that's had NBA jobs.
I'm just saying a great coach.
I'm
Just
with you.
find
I'm with you.
A great coach.
Well,
or
It's
a different
unfortunate.
coach.
It's unfortunate that he's had good talent on their roster over the years since his tenure has had good talent, but the talent hasn't been elite.
By the way,
He's maximized this team. Like, they're
Yes,
essentially the
yes.
same roster as Washington.
I'm with you.
You know, 2
I'm
good
with you.
guards and then a bunch of.
Time out.
I'm with you.
But you're right. It wouldn't be an indictment on Casey. It would
Well,
just
come
be
on,
like
he
He did his
sometimes
job.
you need.
He did
a
his
new
job.
voice.
It just
It would
it's
just
time.
be like sometimes.
Bill
you need a
Belichick
new
got
voice.
fired, Colin.
and it was an indictment at
That's
the time.
unfortunate.
Now it's not because he got titles. At the time, it wasn't good.
I don't know, honest to goodness, I don't know any talented people and ambitious people that don't get fired. I really don't. That's just a fact of life. When you're in competition in sports and just in life, people get fired. Ambitious, talented people. And then they get to restart over someplace else and prove people
You're
wrong.
telling me they're going to go find the next Brad Stevens. The SEC has fired 72 coaches trying to find the next Saban. They
Fire
can't.
73 and 74.
to find Nick Saban.
I will say this, though. In a place that, and to Colin's point, it may not be built to win a championship, stability is critical.
Yes.
Utah never won a title under Jerry Sloan, but they were relevant every year. They were in the playoffs every year. Sometimes that's enough.
Did they get swept
They
twice?
still haven't
Were they
won.
getting
They
swept
got
back to
swept
back?
before. Yeah, they haven't won, but everybody's not going to win.
Everybody,
I hate to say
yeah,
it.
there's an unfortunate.
As long as
that's
these
part
owners
of it.
keep adding teams and franchise, at about 1980, we had all the franchises we needed. And then the owners decided, well, I can get another $40 million expansion fee check. I'll take it. We got about 30 pro teams, if you count all the sports. They're not built to win in today's NFL, NBA, NHL.
So they should just be satisfied.
Well, no, they should just not fire their coach who could have been coach of the year.
He was third on
George
college.
Carl got coach of the year and got fired in Denver. It wouldn't be the first or the last.
Good.
Welcome back. Kenyon Martin, Chris Broussard are back. Let's return to the association where apparently people are finally starting to listen to the very intelligent things I've been saying about Russell Westbrook, according to legitimate Zach Lowe, not some blogger quoting another blogger. An increasing number of teams around the league think the Thunder should actually consider trading the triple-double king after yet another ugly early playoff exit. Whitlock, should OKC trade Westbrook?
I think they should consider it.
Why did it move for you?
Yeah, it's they should consider it. Look, this past season was a nightmare. On the other side, though, what are you going to get in Oklahoma City? You got a superstar, one of the best players in the league, sells tickets, plays hard. You know, he doesn't play smart, but he plays hard. He cares. You're going to be able to duplicate that in OKC? You know, this to me is Dominique Wilkins in Atlanta, Allen Iverson in Philadelphia. It's a good fit.
So you're just saying what I was. Last segment you got on me and you said,
I
what,
said
you're
they should
waving the
consider
white
it.
flag.
Yeah.
They should consider it. They should consider trading, depending on what they can get back for it. But then I said I could also see holding on to him. He sells tickets and he plays.
By the way, didn't we all say, I've been tough on Westbrook for about 3 years, and you guys always push back. Even you, about a year ago, you were saying, okay, if Paul George leaves, you win the argument. He's about to leave. Like, when are we going to go, okay, some of this is a large dose of Westbrook. Dude is hard to play with. Like, can't we at some point? Harden, KD, Paul George, they're all leaving.
It ain't his fault.
Well, whose is it?
Who's making the decisions?
Well, but KD got recruited. He's like, I want to play with a team.
Well, that's fine. He made that decision, but it's not Russell's fault.
None of it is?
Not the players leaving.
Well, if Paul George leaves...
Was it Russell Westbrook checkbook that let James Harden leave or what?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm not blaming him for that.
Let's mark it down here.
Kevin Durant walked. Paul George is going to walk.
Well, Paul George was traded there.
But he's going to walk.
Well, that's fine. It's his choice. But, like, people around the league, not in Oklahoma City, don't know what this man is about. Of course, that's their opinion. You know what I'm saying? They watch it from afar. They whispers and barbershop talk.
How many of them would be first
and guess
in
what?
line to trade for him?
Let him come on. My point. Let him come on the block.
Yep.
First up.
8 of 11 playoff
First
games.
up.
8 of his 11 last playoff games lost. Not to the Warriors, not to LeBron, to first-round teams.
If Cleveland was in the West, they might be losing in the first round. I mean, that's how tough the West is.
With LeBron
Look,
James.
You cannot, no, you don't trade him. You said it. This is Allen Iverson in Philly. This is Dominique Wilkins in Atlanta. I'll even go Steve Nash in Phoenix, Chris Webber in Sacramento, Patrick Ewing in New York, Karl Malone and John Stockton in Utah. Did any of them win titles? No. Westbrook's, he's not going to lead them to a title. But he is a superstar. He keeps you relevant. He will sell out the arena as long as he's there. The fans love him because he's one superstar who's embraced Oklahoma City. They'll still be on national television. You got to keep it. This is a business, too.
In one of the smallest markets in the NBA. Relevant.
So
sell out night in,
you're
night
just
out.
signing up for we give up. We
So
can't.
should
No,
they
ain't
be,
nobody
or
giving
should
up.
you want to become Orlando or Phoenix or Detroit or Charlotte or some of these teams that have been in the lottery for a decade
Why
almost?
would you be if you could
Sacramento?
trade him and get 2 number ones and a good player?
That's no guarantee.
Guaranteeing on what?
Exactly.
You get good players.
Most lottery
Good.
picks are
He's
don't pan
great.
out.
Yeah, but if
So
I
you're
can
going to trade good for great.
If I can get 3 goods for a rigid, poor shooting guard,
But
who's to
that's
say
a
they're
big
going?
if.
Who's to say they're going to be good?
Exactly. Most lottery picks
don't know.
don't pan out.
I'm saying.
But what we do know, I'm going to defend Colin in
Thank
this
you.
regard. What we do know is that you ain't going to win a whole lot with Westbrook. And
You don't know
other
that.
superstar players,
Other people.
or
You
even
get him,
star
you get him a
players.
better coach.
Exactly.
You get him a better coach. Let's start there.
Yep.
Get him a better coach, somebody that understands him, somebody that can have a
Who's
real
that?
conversation.
Who's that?
A former,
His wife?
a former point guard player that he respects.
They got
That's
Mo
played this-
Cheeks on
Hold
the
on,
sideline.
here's the thing. Kenyon,
He
right,
ain't
if
never
you wanna
seen Mo
shake it
Cheeks
up-
play basketball.
If you want to shake it up, start with Billy Donovan, not with Russell Westbrook.
That's who needs to go.
He has never had a coach who would tell him, Russ, we need. If Scotty Brooks didn't do it, Billy Donovan didn't do it.
Scotty Brooks won Coach of the Year. Now
Okay, Coach
How's
of the
he
Year
doing in
and
Washington?
Coach of the Year and being able to go to Russ and have a real conversation with him that Russ is going to respect, listen to, and go out and implement is two totally different things.
Are we sure he can do that? He kind of is a rigid.
I'm not saying it's going to be
I'm not
easy.
saying it, but the conversation, it needs.
what you try.
That's you got to try that.
Who is it?
A Mark Jackson. You go out,
I
throw
like Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson, yep.
Chauncey Billups is my great friend. Throw a Chauncey Billups name in the mix. Give Chauncey a shot to go out and have a conversation with Russell Westbrook as his coach.
There you go. That's better than trading him.
That's better.
OKC could go 20 years before they ever get anybody close to Russell Westbrook.
Seriously.
I
Kenyon won.
didn't think it was that great of an argument.
I like
He
the
hit
film
it.
Mark Jackson. Kenyon won.
So tomorrow,
Why I like Mark Jackson?
You need to go a whole different way tomorrow. In the first.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Tom Brady has every right to be frustrated with the Patriots.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why we should celebrate Chris Paul, or as I like to call him, the anti-Russell Westbrook. Speak for yourself starts now. I've been waiting to say
Can't
that
you just
for...
praise Chris Paul? Why do you got to bring Westbrook into it? All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by NBA champion Caron Butler and Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's start with the Warriors, who blew out the Pelicans last night, and will now move on to the Western Conference Finals, where they'll face James Harden, Chris Paul, and the Rockets, fresh off their own series win over the Jazz. The revamped Rockets have been gearing up for this matchup all year, and the Warriors know it, just ask Draymond Green.
You know, they have made it known that their team is built to beat us. You know, kind of their, like you said, their obsession or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it is what it is. But like I said before, you know, all that stuff is cool. You can build your team. Obviously, you want to build your team to beat the defending champs because that's usually how you got to go to get a championship, the way you got to go. So, all understandable. That stuff has been said for about a year now. It's time to play.
All right, without question, these were the two best teams in the NBA all year. And while the Warriors had the shooting edge, the Rockets won the season series 2-1. Cowherd, do the Rockets have any chance against the Warriors?
I really don't think they do. Listen, we have a history. When dynasties, Warriors, face really, really good teams, Rockets, this is what happens. It's a 5 or 6 game series to the dynasty. Utah Jazz were a really good team. They had an MVP too, Karl Malone. They were the number 1 seed, and then they faced a sick Bulls team. They matched up well with the Bulls, but in the end, Chicago in the biggest games in that series always prevailed.
Who's Michael Jordan for the Warriors? I don't see a Michael Jordan on the Warriors.
Steph.
I don't see a Michael Jordan on the Warriors. You see a Michael Jordan on the Warriors? The Michael Jordan of this era plays in Cleveland.
Okay, but the number 2 on Golden State is better than their 2, Steph or Durant. The number 3 on Golden State, Clay, is better than their 3, Kukoc.
What about the entirety of the team? They've played 3 times this year. When the Rockets were at full strength, they beat them twice. Look, man, where's Steph Curry going to hide defensively in this series? There's no place for him to hide this series. This is a 7-game series.
Oh, come on.
This is a 7-game series that, look, I would favor Golden State, but the Rockets can win this series.
Oh, no.
I'll give them a chance. I'll give them a 25% chance.
That's not much of one.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as close as you're saying, but yeah, there are things to like about the Rockets. The interesting thing, and you saw it with Draymond Green's comments, I talked to somebody in Golden State the other day, and they're like, they can't wait to get Houston. You can see it with Dray. Like, they're like, and he said, because they've been talking so much trash, Clint Capella, we're the better team, all the stuff they've been saying, I think you might see Golden State play better than ever in this series. And if that's the case, it could be a quick series. But I like the Rockets, and with three-point shooting, anything can happen, and we know they put up a ton of threes, so I'll give them a shot.
I like the Rockets also, but I don't like them in this series to win. I say 6. The Warriors win in 6. And, you know, we referred back to the regular season where we talked about LeBron being so dominant. That's the same thing we talked about with the Toronto Raptors. They was dominant in the regular season. They played it extremely well. But when the
Did you just
postseason
compare
came,
Toronto to Houston? You compared Houston
we're
to
talking about
Toronto.
teams being dominant in the regular season,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you go to another season, which is the postseason. It's a different beast. It's a different animal. Every possession matters. It's different.
Who's the Chris Paul, James Harden in Toronto? It's not a fair comparison.
But here's the thing, too. Chris Paul has been spectacular these last 3 games. James Harden hasn't. If you look at the playoffs, they've had a couple games where they've both been at their peak. But for the most part, it's been Harden was great, Paul was so-so. Paul was great, Harden was so-so. They both going to have to be at their peak performance every night.
Harden was sick
to
last
win this
night.
Play the
series.
way he played last night for 5 games in this series in order for them to be special.
Some of Houston really, not a break because they earned it, but they faced Minnesota in the opening series. That's the team that doesn't match up in the West at all against Houston. They don't shoot threes.
Who else in the West was going to beat them?
Well, no. And so that was their first matchup, and they walked through them. Well, then they got another great matchup. Utah's a middle-of-the-pack three-point
So San
shooting
Antonio
team.
would have beat him in the second
Well,
round. Who?
let me
Other
ask you
than
this.
Golden State, who?
Neither Kawhi Leonard.
I think Anthony Davis could have been a pain for them. I think Greg Popovich. Houston got really ideal matchups from a bad three-point shooting team and a team led by a rookie against Harden and Paul, 2 veterans. It's all worked out well for Houston.
Capella, Harden, Paul. 50-5 when all 3 take the court this season. But let's just ignore all of that, and they have no shot.
I wonder what the record is for the Def lineup.
It ain't 50-5.
It's championships.
Yeah, 2-0 when they start. Listen, you would acknowledge the NBA's always been about 2 seasons. You could argue 3. The officials even officiate games differently now. Let's say the officials say, we're gonna let, and they do this when you get to the conference finals and the finals. They because officials don't want to decide games. They let you be more physical. Who's got the more physical roster? I got a Draymond Green. Zaza
That's
Pachulia.
it. That's as
That's
far as
pretty
you're going to
close.
go with
Yeah,
it.
that's
as
pretty
far.
close.
I got Draymond Green. That's as far as you go.
Because
Steph Curry,
Capella, PJ Tucker's physical.
all them light-skinned suburban brothers. Like, you talking about physical side.
Hey, watch it. Watch it now. We can
Hey, hold on. I consider myself light-skinned too, man. Hold up.
This time of year brings us 2 things, graduations and Father's Day, and the gifts that go along with them. Before you buy Dad another tie or that grad a balloon that will probably float away, ask yourself this. Does my dad or grad like wings or sports, or better yet, both? If the answer is yes, then get them a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Right now, if you purchase $30 worth or more in-store or online, they'll give you a $5 bonus to keep for yourself. That's a gift that gives back. How generous of you. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Terms and conditions apply.
The Celtics will look to close out the series with the Sixers tonight. It's actually been a really fun series. Despite Boston's 3-1 series lead and a clear edge with Brad Stevens on the sidelines, Ben Simmons and the young Sixers actually opened up as slight favorites in tonight's game. Whitlock, you expect Boston to close out the Sixers tonight?
No, I don't. This is a very close series.
It is.
That, got off to a 3-0 start, but the Sixers had leads and nice leads in those games, and you could argue better team just didn't know how to finish, didn't know how to close out in the fourth quarter. I think the Sixers win tonight. I still think Boston's going to win the series. Brad Stevens is that good, but this is a 6 or 7 game series. On paper, that's what we thought coming in. I still believe that Boston just had the ball fall their way the first 3 games.
Okay, as a parent, the younger your kids are, the worse they are away from home. You go on a road trip, they're just problems. Kids are good at home. Okay, Philly's young and Boston's young. Let's be honest about it. Tatum's young, Jalen's young, Rozier's young. Okay, you got 2 young teams. You notice how much better both are at home? I mean, Boston couldn't beat Milwaukee on the road, yet they're 6-0 at home. When I see 2 young teams, this is what I see. Taking my kids on a road trip. Woo! Philly's a different team on the road, and Boston's a different team at home. Situationally, I'll take the Celtics tonight.
I hope and pray you're right, because I'd love this to be an interesting series. And I wanted Philly to win. I thought Philly was going to win going in. And they can argue they should be up 3-1. Because they were up, I think, 22 in game in Boston.
Right.
Up 22. Definitely should have won game 3, and we saw what happened in game 4. I think a key for Philly is how they feel inside. Like, you know, Karan, as a player, if you're down 3-1, do you really think you can come back and win, or 3-0, or do you just you don't really think you have a chance? Were they just playing for pride in game 4, not to get swept by another young team? Or if they really believe we're the better team, we can beat them, then I think they have a good shot of extending this.
I think it's all about mentality, what you touched on, Chris, and having the right disposition coming into that game on the road. However, I think Brad Stevens does an excellent job of just, making the adjustments on the fly. And that's why I give Boston the edge, pulling this thing out at home.
Here's what I think both of y'all made great points, but I don't think anyone's giving Brett Brown any credit for going with the T.J. McConnell move and taking Ben Simmons off the ball. It seems like they've made an adjustment that worked, and maybe that will continue to work.
I agree. The thing is, I think Stevens will be ready for that this time. Like T.J. McConnell, we know he's obviously not a great player, but he caught him off guard, and it threw Boston off guard. I think tonight Stevens and the Celtics will be ready for that, and McConnell won't be nearly
Playoff series are chess matches. I do think Boston has more pieces. They have a little bit more viability. I think Philly is what they are. Very good defensively, long, athletic. They're not a great shooting team. Boston has moments where they are very good defensively, incredibly efficient shooting the basketball, great situationally. They've got second and third gears. I still contend that Philadelphia is an athletic wing shooter away from really being special. They're good. I don't think they're very good.
Embiid, Simmons, their ceilings are the highest in this series. And so all they have to do is reach their highs tonight in terms of performance and playing smart. And I think it's a possibility. You can mature in 2, 3, 4 days, 2, 3, 4 games, and figure out what playoff basketball is about. And I think that gets them at least one more victory.
I totally agree. You can mature on the fly, but one thing you cannot develop is a jump shot. You cannot develop a jump shot from game to game or in the series. That takes summer of breaking it down and building it back
a decade it might take for.
By the way, Sixers brought in a mentalist to talk to the team in the last 24 hours. I don't know this officially, but I think every team that brought in a mentalist in the series lost. I'm going to go with that. Welcome back, Caron Butler, Chris Broussard. Let's move to a couple of Hall of Famers. Charles Barkley and Shaq, whose antics on TNT usually for a good laugh. We like them. But last night, things got a little uncomfortable during a heated exchange about Dwayne Casey's decision to bench the Raptors star, DeMar DeRozan.
He's got to repair his relationship with DeMar DeRozan.
No, he don't.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, you have to, because listen, if your best player, you bench your best player.
Why was he benched?
That's not the point.
It is the point.
You don't disrespect your best player.
Listen.
If you don't have a great relationship with your best player, you're never going to win.
That's not true.
He did not.
That's not true.
He did not, well, in
That's
your
not
opinion.
true.
No, just because you say something, it's just
That's
your
not
opinion.
true.
No, it's not true.
Me and Pat Riley never saw eye to eye, and what happened to my man win. So it's not true what you're saying.
Well,
it's not true what you're saying.
It's not true.
I'm just letting you know you know what you did.
Was the man on that team?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Even start.
It doesn't matter. I was a role player. You're right, but you know what?
That's
Me and him
my
didn't get along.
point. That's my point.
I'm saying
with your best player.
You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to championship.
I'm just telling you something.
Stop babying
Wayne
these
carried you to that championship. No matter how much you scream, you loud, that does not make you right. You're wrong in the city.
And that's why you ain't win, because you was a baby. Stop babying these players.
I'm not babying no players.
He don't play. He don't play. He got to sit his ass down. Period.
He got to repair his.
He ain't got to repair nothing. He got to stop babying your players. You got baby, that's why you ain't win.
He got to. I didn't have Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant carry me up and down the court.
So why you not Hall of Fame?
Because
I got 3 Finals MVP, Chuck.
Because you
Google me, Chuck.
Everybody
Google
knows
me,
you were a
Chuck.
great
You see
player.
that? Google me.
Well, obviously that got a little personal, and these guys clearly disagree about how coaches should treat star players. Whitlock, whose side are you on, Barkley or Shaq?
I think Shaq was right in terms of don't baby DeMar DeRozan, don't baby these players. I think Shaq was right in saying, Chuck, you may have got babied a little bit. Where Shaq is wrong is, and if I were Barkley in that moment, I would have said, hey, man, if I was 7'2", they wouldn't have enough fingers to cover all the championship rings I had. And if I was 7'2", Kobe Bryant would have never run me out of L.A. And so I think Shaquille O'Neal had a great season. A great career. But Barkley, the greatest 6'4" basketball player we've ever seen, ever. 6'4". This is a game that favors height. And so I get Shaq's point and all that, but if Barkley was his size, he'd have 10 rings.
Here's why I side with Charles Barkley. First of all, there's very few elite anything. Lawyers, surgeons, basketball stars. The whole planet plays football at quarterback. High school, college, Division I, Division II, Division III, Canadian football, XFL, Euro, NFL. You got 6 guys who are great quarterbacks. When you get a star, there ain't many of them. Take care of them. Secondly, it's Toronto. This isn't like Miami losing a star of the Lakers. You're Toronto. You don't baby DeMar DeRozan? All right, bye-bye. Good luck, as you've said, getting another star in Toronto. So, A, Barkley's right. You take care of stars. This is the other thing is, the NBA's always been a star-driven league. You
got to baby him.
Well, first of all, babying him is, well, what's babying him? Isn't that what Westbrook gets?
Yeah, and look how well it's working out there. Westbrook's your least favorite player. Now you're going to use him as the example? Give me a break.
It really depends on the temperament of the star. Greg Popovich could yell at Tim Duncan. There are other players, superstars, that wouldn't have taken it. I generally agree with Charles that you do have to have a good relationship with your best player. And I've had coaches tell me they would go up to their best player before practice. I'm going to go off on you today. It ain't nothing, but I'm going to go off on you today just for the other guys.
Not personal.
You know, yeah. So the other guys see you yelling at the best player, and then they get in line. But in this case, look, Dwayne Casey did nothing wrong with DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan had 8 points, a negative 23 plus minus,
yes.
And the bench players rallied them. And then on Tuesday, after they lost Game 4 and were swept, DeMar DeRozan said, I have nothing but respect for Dwayne Casey, and all of my success I give to him. So Charles was wrong initially, and there's nothing to repair. Those two are fine.
I think they both made valid points. You know, you're talking about Chuck and, Shaq, but at the same time, you have to understand, you need somebody at the helm to protect you from yourself sometimes. And I think Coach Casey did an excellent job of protecting DeMar from himself. He wasn't playing up to par, and he was out there embarrassing himself and taking the hit, and he wasn't taking a ton of criticism. He put that on himself by pulling him, so now he's faced with the real questions. And then he can pivot that to the coach, not to the player. So I think that he was a shield for DeMar in that situation.
Listen, I want to go back at you again on your whole, you got to baby stars. Bill Belichick's your favorite coach. Tom Brady can't stand him right now. Tom Brady's, I don't know if I'm appreciated or not. Bill Belichick ain't babying his star.
Popovich apologized essentially to LaMarcus Aldridge. Look, the NBA is a different culture. You don't, good Lord, one guy controls the whole NBA basically. And then there's one other team, LeBron and the Warriors. In the NFL, I mean...
If DeMar DeRozan was LeBron, baby. But DeMar DeRozan ain't LeBron.
In Canada...
He's a quarter of LeBron.
Oh, what time out? But in Canada...
what?
You don't get stars up to Canada.
But hold on, DeRozan is locked in. They just signed a long-term, extension, so he's locked in.
I will say this to you, though. If you create that monster, that beast, and when the problems outweigh the talent, you're going to have a bigger issue than you
I've been
ever
saying
dreamed
that
of.
about Westbrook for years.
Yeah, I know. You're all over the
That's
map.
not the case with Westbrook.
You're all over. I want to go back on my one last...
Well, I think you bringing up Barkley, Shaq. I disagree. Look, Barkley, I agree. I've said he's arguably the best player ever, inch for inch. So I agree with you. But Charles was a lot like Shaq. Didn't
That's my
defend.
point.
So I'm just saying, you can't say he would have had more rings than Shaq if he was that size. He had the game, but, he didn't want to defend. He didn't work as hard. They both were kind of like not the hardest workers in the world.
I got to be careful here.
Why?
Because...
Say it with your chest.
I think...
Say it with your chest.
I was mad a minute ago.
I think Charles gave more to the game than Shaq.
No.
Yes.
You can't say that.
Yes.
How?
Yeah.
Shaq won
Look at
at
Shaq.
the highest level.
No,
Charles
gave
didn't.
more.
Oh,
Shaq
you
is
mean
7'2". 7-2. That's uncoachable. That's a gift from God. You give it. You give it
are-
to me.
there are
Two dudes that
exactly.
didn't live up
Thank
to.
you.
A lot of them.
There are a lot of guys that big.
If Barkley was 7-2, trust me, they'd be building monuments to him.
He only got to one finals. And again, I'm with you. He was a tremendous player, but I don't think you can say he gave more than Shaq.
You can't tell the story of basketball without either of those guys.
I agree.
Well, without Shaq, you can't. You might be able to without Charles.
Oh, no.
No. The story, how long is
Time
the
out.
story? I mean,
It's going to be as long as
you-
it has
you
to be.
call
You
Shaq is in
can't
there
edit
before
Charles
Charles.
Barkley out the
The
story
man
of
just called him
basketball.
the best player inch for inch, but now we're gonna write him out.
Arguably.
Now we're gonna write him out of the NBA story.
he didn't win a championship. He didn't win an MVP. Well, he was one-time MVP.
Yeah.
I mean,
How many pages is that book?
he's look, he was fantastic. But Shaq is. You mentioned Shaq before you mentioned Barkley.
Okay,
I'll say
yeah, but let's be honest. When Shaq went to the Lakers, that was bigger than any brand in America outside maybe the Cowboys. Now, it slipped some because the NBA is more global and you don't need cities as much. But Shaq had the benefit of, I don't know, the Laker brand and Pat Riley. Charles played in Philadelphia.
Which is Philadelphia was a great franchise.
Phil Jackson.
Oh, Pat Riley in
Yeah,
Miami.
Pat Riley in Miami, Phil Jackson, Laker brand. I mean, come on, Charles went to Phoenix. By the way, how's Phoenix mostly been for the last 50 years? They were good during him. They were good for a couple years with Nash.
Charles, look, I really think he's arguably the best player ever, inch for inch. But he was not Shaq. He just wasn't. And Philly, you poo-pooing Philly. Philly was a great franchise.
10 inches shorter is the whole difference between those two. That's it. 10 inches.
Well, okay,
That's the
but
difference.
you could say that about LeBron and Allen Iverson or something. I mean,
the
they're
game
the size.
favors the big dudes, and Shaq was favored. He didn't give more than Barkley, and so he can wave his ring around. I like Shaq a lot. I defended Shaq over Kobe the entire time, but don't wave your finger in front of Barkley like that again. All right, welcome back. We're joined now by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to New England, where a lot of ink has been spilled trying to explain what's behind Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski's cool attitude towards Bill Belichick this offseason. Now a guy who knows the team as well as anyone, former Pats executive Michael Lombardi, says he thinks the real reason is they want more money. And when you look at what Brady's making compared to guys like Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, and Case Keenum, Lombardi kind of has a point. Cowherd, should Brady be bothered by his contract?
Yeah, I mean, if you are the best in the world at something, and yet you are paid 16th best, it's not about the money. It's what it symbolizes. Money symbolizes respect. When Eric was the best back in the league, you can maybe talk yourself out of, well, I'm the second highest paid, but, you know, my contract's coming up in a year. If you're the 16th highest paid running back, you go home at night and you go to bed and you put your head in that pillow, you're thinking,
That was me. I was making $150,000. I was pissed. I wasn't just thinking.
okay, you're thinking this organization doesn't respect me. And what you're really thinking is they take me for granted. And by the way, we heard Giselle in that documentary. That's sort of what Tom thinks.
I think he should be bothered, and it's most bothered by the fact that there was the Patriots way, and he bought all in, and he was the example of that. I'll take a little less so we can do more with the team. And then the head coach, the guy that preaches, let's do everything the Patriots way, whatever makes sense for the team, does what he did in the Super Bowl with Malcolm Butler, doesn't explain it, and so now that sets off a cancer in the whole team. And so now Tom Brady's like, oh, you're different, so I get to be different now. And I've been satisfied not being the highest paid player when I'm the best player, I'm the MVP, and I've got 5 Super Bowls. You've changed, I get to change. Give me my money.
I agree with that. I think that when they did the Malcolm Butler thing, I think it kind of changed everything. Look, Tom Brady's wife made $30 million last year.
Yeah.
He made, 21? You know, say the endorsements, probably made 80. It's not about the money, but it become, like you said, I'm the best player, but I'm being paid like the 16th best player.
Case Keenum. You're getting paid less than Case.
I do agree with that. Now, in my case, I was making $150,000. If I was making $21 million, I would be like, okay, I'm cool. But if I had a wife making $30 million, I'd be like, hey, no problem. And I'm winning Super Bowl rings.
But, as you said, it's not about the money. Money symbolizes something.
It depends on how much money you're making. Depends on how much money you're making now.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does matter how much you make. It's still about a stack of money and reading in the paper, I'm getting paid less than Case Keenum? Is that what you think about me?
Case Keenum's actually making a little less than him, but around the same.
Guys, I don't know how to say this without being mean. They have generational wealth, as you said, $30 million. Their net worth is $500 million. Why would Tom Brady care if Case Keenum is in his stratosphere? All he has to say is, I got 5 rings. How am I going to get to the 6th? If I take a little less money, can we get another guy in free agency? I cannot imagine why Tom Brady would care what Case Keenum's making versus what he's making.
Did you see the Met Gala he was at this week?
I did, yeah.
If you're going to dress like that, you got to keep up. That jacket costs a lot of money.
Hey, when your wife got a gold dress on, you got to have some gold on somewhere.
No, I listen again.
And the wife's in the front.
Well, everybody thinks this. In life, everybody thinks what I'm about to say. Hey, man, if I just had blank, I wouldn't worry about money. And then everybody gets blank and goes, well, my neighbor's got a Lexus. I don't have a Lexus. It's not about money. It's what it symbolizes. And Tom's just saying, time out. Minnesota just emptied the Brinks truck on Kirk Cousins. I'm carrying this franchise.
I'm with Jason. I believe in Jason.
Let me add this one, Eric.
That Jason
this
McIntyre.
guy right here.
I like what you said, too. I agree both, but the last things I believe in him.
We worked with Michael Lombardi for a little while, okay? I sat next to him while he FaceTimed Josh McDaniels. He's in with that Belichick crowd. Yeah. What if this isn't Bill Belichick saying, hey, Mike, I'm getting crushed over here, over Malcolm Butler. Can you float something about Tom Brady to take the shine off me and put the spotlight on Tom? What if this isn't just Patriot guys looking out for one another?
Okay,
Eric, you've been in some front.
But tell me this.
You know, in the front office, they do some shady things.
But
yes,
they
do.
Tell me this, Mac. I don't think this puts Tom in a bad light. I don't think this puts...
Painting a 41-year-old guy as money hungry?
But you know, when they asked him, do you think the organization, what was the question? Do you think the organization appreciates you? And he said, I take the 5th. I mean, that says something. The organization, not the organization.
Let me ask you this, though. This is interesting, what McIntyre said. So why did this story break yesterday? What happened the day before? Brady looked oddly wealthy. So Brady goes out with his supermodel wife. He's never looked wealthier than that picture. Later that day, Belichick seizes a moment. I'm going to make this about money, and people are going to go, come on, Brady, you're hanging out.
Jeez.
I'm just saying, you don't think it...
No. I mean, if you look at that picture and go, oh, he looks wealthy.
You don't think he looks wealthy there?
I thought he looked silly.
He looks like a
I thought he looked like he was in a figure skating
This is
outfit.
how
He looks
people
silly.
in Germany that own castles dress.
No. He looks like he allowed his wife to put him in a clown suit.
There you go.
Because he's so in love with her.
Well, she got gold. He got to have gold on, too.
I'm not knocking either one of them, but again, when you fall in that kind of love, your wife or your spouse can talk you into things.
That's how rich people dress at galas.
Come on, Jason.
Yeah, look who was around
Jason,
them.
you ain't got you didn't have one of them back in the day. Come on, that with a hat. Come on now. Come on, you know you had one of them outfits.
So listen, I just think it goes back to appreciation. How do you express appreciation? If you can't get it verbally from the head coach, you can get it every 2 weeks in that direct deposit they put in your bank account. And so the difference between 20 million and 30 or 35 million, what he's worth, 10, 15 million bucks, I don't care who you are. You can have all the money that Bill Gates has. And I'll take that extra 15 million and give it to me. I know what to do with that.
I made 150, so can I just get $1 million?
To the Sixers, whose youth and inexperience definitely showed up in the series, really last night, some real late-game blunders cost them some close games, 3 in fact. Even still, Philly had a pretty remarkable turnaround. 2 years ago, they won 10 games. Despite some struggles, Joel Embiid says Ben Simmons had an optimistic message after the game.
He came up to me, was like, there's going to be, show me his hands, and he was like, there's going to be a lot of rings on this. And then I was like, for sure. So we got a bright future, and we're going to be fine.
I'm just learning. This is just the start for me. I have a long way to go.
All right, J-Mac, Simmons may be optimistic, but he did look lost at a couple of points in this series late. Do you think he got exposed by the Celtics?
I think exposed is a great word. I mean, they were better when Ben Simmons was on the bench. And we have the stat here. This is staggering, maybe the stat of the playoffs. When Ben Simmons was off the court, the Philadelphia 76ers outscored the Celtics. I mean, look, this is crazy. The best player, the rookie of the year, and they were better with him off. I think what the Celtics did, and you're going to see this against the Cavs, Brad Stevens taking the best player out of his comfort zone. Ben Simmons can't shoot in the 10 to 16-foot range, 31% this season. Brad Stevens said, "We'll give you whatever you want in the mid-range." Ben Simmons didn't take it. Did not work, and
Ben
Simmons had a really bad
is a
series.
rookie.
Yeah.
Okay. Exposed is the wrong word. Exposed is Trump had an affair with a porn star. That's new information.
That's definitely exposure.
Watergate, Richard Nixon's corruption. Oh, that's new information. Expose is, oh, this guy's okay. Ben Simmons is a long-talented rookie who can't shoot. What didn't I know about that?
Well, the Miami Heat had that information.
Okay, that's not new information. Exposed, no. Ben Simmons was what we all thought he was. Dude is strong, long, good court vision, plays defense, can score, but he can't shoot, and he's a rookie, so he's overwhelmed. There's nothing I was exposed to. By the way, you have to remember this, is that Brad Stevens is a great coach, primarily known for execution out of bounds and defense. Well, guess what? Great defensive coach, shut down 20-year-old kid in a series. That's kind of what I would expect. Pat Riley did this early in his career to young guards he faced.
Yeah, so that plus minus. So do you actually believe that the Philadelphia 76ers are a better team with Ben Simmons on them? So don't give me them numbers.
Hey,
so don't give me them numbers,
the
man.
one game they won, Kenyon, T.J. McConnell was the star.
Okay, he played well. Yeah. Listen, playoffs, he's high energy.
Yeah.
That's what he is. Yeah. Coach knows that. Insert him to be in the line to be successful and to help our team. He did his job. He's not a better player than Ben Simmons.
No, nobody would say that.
He can dream to be a better player than Ben Simmons. So them numbers don't mean anything. The kid has a bright future in this league.
Yeah. Well, when you say exposed, exposed implies phony, fraud. It does. If you want to say he didn't play well, he struggled, he learned, this is great for Ben Simmons.
Definitely.
Yeah, it would have been nice to reach the finals. This is great for them because we know he couldn't shoot. He knew he couldn't shoot. He's got to work on his free throws. He also learned, I got to work on situational basketball, time and score, getting my teammates in the right position.
All of that.
And look, this was his first year ever as a full-time point guard. And he did it at the top level and led his team to 52 wins without Embiid a lot of times.
And he's not the only person that needs to learn all the things that you just said.
That's right.
He's not the only one that turned the ball over late. He's on a bad shot selection. The whole roster, you know what I'm saying? Because they're young, because they ain't never been in them situations
Ben Simmons
before.
had a tremendous rookie year. He is the rookie of the year. He was the third best rookie in the playoffs after Donovan Mitchell and Jason Tatum.
But again,
so he did
his limitations
context.
Yeah. They're not point guards. Yeah. Okay, a point guard's a quarterback. Yeah. Listen, left guard for the Colts. Indianapolis Colts drafted a left guard. He's not going to get exposed much. You're not asking him much. Block downhill.
It's
a
interesting.
Rookie quarterback, Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. These other Jason Tatum. He's not the quarterback of that team. He's a wing player.
He lost his point guard, Kyrie Irving, just as Donovan Mitchell lost his point guard, Ricky Rubio. Both still thrived.
Again,
I just thought. Go ahead.
We're forgetting this. Ben Simmons had a 1-point game. I mean, a really bad game for any player, but okay, he still went 16, 9.5, and 8 with a 1-point game. Yes, this rookie point guard had an atrocious
and
day.
he's been exposed.
By the way, it should be mentioned, in LeBron's 8th year, he froze in the headlights in the finals. Yeah. Ben froze in the headlights of one game. He went passive. Yeah. I'm okay with it. He's a 20-year-old kid.
It happened to Magic Johnson.
Tragic.
In 1984. Magic had 2 rings at that point, and he froze in the finals. I mean, it happens to guys. And to your point, you're talking about exposed. He actually showed something that a lot of people didn't think he had. He actually played pretty well off the ball.
Yeah.
When McConnell was in, he was in a lot of times with him as well, kind of playing like a power forward and scoring points.
Ask yourself.
He's a basketball player.
Thank you.
He's a basketball player.
Ask yourself this. If I said to you, right now, Kenyon, I said, who in the NBA would you give Ben Simmons up for? 10 guys?
Not that many.
I mean,
5?
seriously. I mean, I like a lot. I mean, LeBron, obviously, but I've got 15 years of Ben Simmons. Our knock on him is, hey, man, he froze a little in the playoffs. That's a good argument. That's a good problem to have. I froze in the second round of the playoffs.
Exposed in one 5-game series. He'll be
After
back.
playing
He'll be back.
After playing 20-some games in college, no games the next year, and all of a sudden people expect him to be this LeBron, no, he's going to grow into that, and he's going to have an excellent
He's
career.
as big as you, and he's a point guard.
Hey, I'm excited to see him play.
So am I.
Are you ready to apologize?
I love Ben Simmons. I'm a big fan. I got my kids a Ben Simmons jersey, Chris. Come on.
Welcome back. We're joined now by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson and longtime NFL player and scout Bucky Brooks. Let's move to Dallas, where at least one guy is very optimistic that the Cowboys will rebound from last year's struggles. They weren't that big of struggles. Jerry Jones saying he thinks Ezekiel Elliott will benefit from having all the distractions of last year behind him.
There's no doubt in my mind that it will make a significant difference in how he can focus, how he can focus not only on the next practice, but the next game and the entire season. So, yes, I think that I give him a big arrow as to what his performance might be without the overhang of the issue that he faced last year.
A rejuvenated Zeke could be a very good thing for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, who seem to be much better with Elliott on the field. All right, J-Mac, who's more important to the Cowboys' success to you, Zeke or Dak Prescott?
I got to go Dak. I feel like with Zeke, we know what we're going to get. Behind the best offensive line in the league, he's probably going to test 2,000 yards this year. He's reliable. I love Zeke. But with Dak, there's some uncertainty. Okay, he lost Witten and Dez Bryant. You know, they were 44% of Dak's targets last year. Every time he drops back, he's got Witten, his security blanket, and Dez had 133 targets last year. That's a high. I just wonder how he's going to handle Tavon Austin, Allen Hurns. They're going to need name tags in the huddle for that offensive set early in the season. I think definitely Dak is more important.
Well, I think Dak's the most underrated quarterback in the league. We know who's great in this league, and we know who's not. Dak is one of the very few guys that's not in the top 8 to 10 great that can get there. I mean, we're never going to see Kirk Cousins and Case Keenum make big leaps. Deshaun Watson is one of those kids that could make a leap. I don't think Marcus Mariota has it in him. I don't think Jameis Winston has it in him. Garoppolo could make that leap. Dak has won 22 games in the last 2 years. One quarterback's won more, Tom Brady, and Tom's in a much easier division. I think Dak is special. I think he's dealt with a lot of noise, a high-profile sort of vanity-driven owner, the Zeke stuff. Dez, boy, I watched that Amazon Prime show with Dez and Zeke. Oh, God, the meetings were a mess.
Yeah.
I think Dak's a really potentially special player.
I mean, I think he's a really good player, but I think the guy who makes it go for Dallas is Ezekiel Elliott. When you look at what Dallas is, they're a team that are built to run the football. And when they run the football, they can control the game on offense and defense. Running the ball allows them to set up Dak Prescott off play action. Everything that he does because he can fake the 21, throw it downfield, get the ball to the playmakers. He can play efficiently because they're able to dictate the terms because the situations are favorable for the offense. Also, they employ a keep-away strategy that keeps their defense off the field. We talk about them doing with a bunch of a cast of misfits. They're able to do that because they're able to control time of possession. To me, I know we talk about it being a quarterback-driven league, but I think the common denominator with most of the quarterbacks that play really, really well, the presence of dominant running backs or somebody at the running back position that can command it not only as a runner, but as a receiver out the back.
You're right. And Jerry Jones said it right. I think without all the distractions that he had last year, he'll be a different player because he didn't know if he was going to play, if he was going to be in, if he was going to be out. And one thing is this Cowboys are a running football team. That's what they want to do. 2 years ago, when Zeke first came on the scene, what did they do? Run the football. That keeps you in the games. But I think where the problem comes in is if I'm a defensive coordinator for another team, I'm like, 21's not going to beat us. We're going to stack the line of scrimmage. There's no Dez Bryant, there's no Jason Witten, who was not running great routes, but he's still a good blocker. You know, they don't have a real receiver that no one knows about. So, look, we're just going to stack the line of scrimmage. We're going to beat them, make them a 4 beat us. If he beats us, no problem. But we're not going to let 21 beat us.
Remember, 3 years ago, the brand for Russell Wilson was, listen, it's the defense. Mm-hmm. Now he's he's going to be mentioned in a Hall of Fame class when he's done. I mean, he's now a great player. He's in the MVP. He led the NFL last year in touchdown passes with a bad O-line. I think, and a lot of that wasn't because Russell wasn't good, because there was this big brand around him, Pete Carroll defense. I think Dak sometimes suffers from that. We've given the offensive line so much attention. I've never talked more about an offensive line in my career. And now we have this great line. So we feel like, well, this team's about the offense and the running game. Listen, this kid doesn't make big mistakes.
I agree with you.
He doesn't throw interceptions.
I agree with you with that. You know, when I first saw Dak play, he played the Rams in the first preseason game back in L.A. And I had never heard of him.
Yep.
And I'm just watching him. I'm like, man, who is this kid? He throws like Warren Moon. I'm like, he's so accurate. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
It's true. I think Dak is underrated.
And that
very
never
much.
happens to a Cowboy player.
Never. I agree. I think he's underrated, but still, I mean, it's great when you have two players. You have him and Zeke together. That's what makes them great together. Together, I think they're really good. Yeah. It's like Troy and Emmett. You know, I think they needed each other at that time. And I think it's the same thing here, but still, this football team is a running we run first. Now, if you give us the opening, if you stack the line of scrimmage on us, and all of a sudden, Dak just started to pick you apart, you're going to have to.
But Seattle was a running team.
Yeah.
And then Marshawn Lynch left, and Russell led the NFL in touchdown passes.
He did, but the team also has not been the same.
Right.
Like Marshawn Lynch gave them that identity, gave them that brand, and that physicality and toughness came from the running game. There is something about the run game that defines your team. And when you have a guy like Zeke, who can run it and can really spit out these 100-yard games like an ATM machine, it allows you to comfortably pick and choose when you want to pass. So Edie's right. They're going to stack the box, and they're going to dare number 4 to be able to beat them. But Zeke Elliott's so good that he should be able to run against 8-man boxes and still have a level of success.
When you think about, you talk about Seattle back in those days, they were a defensive football team. Right. They would take the ball away, give you a short field, and they'd score right quick. So at one point, you didn't really know who Russell Wilson was. You saw him run around a lot, and they would run the football.
See, I guess my argument is, I think Dak's got a lot of Russell Wilson.
He does.
I just
agree
think
with that.
we didn't appreciate Russell until about year 4. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the year we're going to go, oh, Dak's really, because I think people will stack it, and he'll prove, with mostly possession receivers now, I can move the chain.
Welcome back. Kenyon Martin and Chris Broussard are back. Let's return to Boston, where Brad Stevens just pulled a rabbit out the hat, finding a way to get the Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals despite major injuries to Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. Incredibly, Stevens didn't get a single vote from his fellow coaches for Coach of the Year, which went to Dwayne Casey, whose team just got bounced, by the way. Colin, is Brad Stevens the best coach in the NBA?
I don't remember ever, as good as Phil Jackson was, I don't ever remember in my life saying, yeah, that team won because of the coach. Didn't we think Philadelphia had 2 stars? I mean, Popovich lost a star player, Kawhi, to injury. It derailed the season. Brad Stevens lost Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, and they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were plus 29 against Philadelphia in the last 2 minutes of halves. That tends to be coaching. Those are designed plays out of timeouts. You know, right before a half, right before the end of the game, you call a timeout. You set up Al Horford. You set up whoever you set up. I just don't remember in my life ever talking about a series and talking about a coach being the reason they won in my life.
I love Brad Stevens. Earlier in the show, I said that he's going to keep the Celtics in the series against LeBron. I've got to stop short, though, about best coach in the NBA. Colin, this is a guy who's 19-21 in the playoffs in his career. For now, just for now, I've still got to go with Popovich as the best coach of the year, as the best coach in the NBA. But I do have to say about Stevens, this is a guy who, 15 years ago was an Eli Lilly marketing rep, in the pharmaceutical industry, and here he is bypassing. He cut the line, is why I think these coaches have it out for him. He didn't pay his dues. He was never an assistant in the NBA. I get a lot of heat being on TV here. Hey, Jason, you didn't work in small markets. You didn't work your way up. How did you get there? Listen, some guys do things and go an unconventional route. Brad Stevens went to Butler. Butler got them to the national title game twice, and here he is, one of the best coaches.
He also got a 6-year contract. Nobody gets 6-year contracts. Yeah. Resentment.
Did you just compare yourself to Brad?
I did not. Come on, why would I do that, Broussard?
No, look, Brad Stevens is a great coach, obviously, but no, I'm with you. I have to go with Popovich with the rings. And Colin, I have thought a lot of times that a coach got something done. Popovich, for instance, we've seen time and time again where he sat players or players were out and they had a great game and beat some of the top players. And even when this year, Kawhi Leonard out essentially the whole year, and they were in the running for 3rd place in the West. You know, Quinn Snyder, their one really good offensive player was a rookie, and they battled. They got, what, 4th seed, 5th seed in the West. And Tom Thibodeau, when he had Derrick Rose, and then even when Derrick Rose got hurt, they beat the Nets one year. Nate Robinson was their big-time player, and the Nets had Darren Williams, Joe Johnson. So we've seen coaches maximize good talent. And some of those coaches haven't been as good with superstar talent. Like Thibodeau hasn't been as good in Minnesota. Now you got a Karl Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler, Wiggins. I want to see Stevens with stars, real superstars for a long haul, not just Kyrie for 2/3 of the season. And then he'll have the whole shebang. Like he can coach marginal talent and he can maximize star talent.
Yeah. For once, we agree.
For once, Ken.
We agree. Hey, I'll leave it at that. No, man. Greg Popovich is a great coach. But Brad Stevens has done an excellent job, I'm saying, with the talent that he has there, moving forward. So we'll see. But he's done what people didn't expect him to do, I'm saying, with Kyrie being out now. He never had a chance to coach Hayward, I'm saying, this season. It's ended early. But no, I'm saying, with Kyrie not being there, it showed a lot. I'm saying, for him having to plug Rozier and instilling the confidence in him that he can go out and do the same things that Kyrie was doing. And him going out and doing it. But just putting his guys in situations to be successful. Coming out of timeouts, like you stated, he's excellent.
Excellent.
And then I think that comes from his college background, having to script plays up
for Butler
with low time and things like that to get some national championship games and all that. So that experience helped him. Oh, well, he never coached in the NBA, assists and all that stuff. He's a good basketball coach. That all should matter.
You know, the one thing that when I look at a coach, what makes a great coach is a big part of it is, do you get the best Kenyon Martin that Kenyon Martin can be?
Yeah.
Like your best coach. Listen, man, Isaiah Thomas has been a marginal NBA player. He got MVP votes, okay, with Brad Stevens. Jay Crowder's kind of a bounce-around guy. Yeah. When he was with Boston, I was like, he's a vital part of their success. We went to Cleveland and LeBron, and it didn't work. Isaiah Thomas went to LeBron and it didn't work.
Don't forget Avery Bradley as well. Remember last year in the playoffs?
Avery Bradley went to a team in Detroit which wanted to use him more, and his numbers went down.
Yeah.
The one thing Stevens does, Jason Tatum shouldn't be this good this early. There's just no way. Jaylen Brown could not shoot out of college. 2 years later, he's almost a 40%. Yep. So to me, coaching's a lot of things, but one of them is, do I take a player, and I thought Phil Jackson was great at this. Rick Fox was his best under Phil. You could play for 6 teams, but I think that's where Brad's really special. Now to Houston, where Chris Paul just led the Rockets to the Western Conference Finals, the first time he's made it this deep in the playoffs during his 13-year career. The series win over Utah earned Paul some, serious praise. But not everybody is such a big fan of the point guard, including the guy sitting next to me, Kenyon Martin.
Uh-oh.
People think he's a politician.
Okay.
People don't trust politicians.
Is that really it?
Yeah, he does things within the locker room that some teammates question. Dealing with management and coaches. People deem it as sneaky. Things like that. But you don't know what's going on behind the closed door, so it leads to speculation.
So he has excellent relationships with Adam Silver, all of his coaches, front office people. That doesn't land well for players who don't think he's all in as a player.
Yeah, as a teammate. They think he has an agenda, like a hidden agenda, that doesn't include the rest of the 14 guys. For some guys, it's deeper than basketball. It's about relationships. It's about, do I trust you in more than just a basketball sense for some guys?
You were all about winning. I think you'd like him.
Yeah, winning, yeah. But when it comes across as like being selfish at times.
Woo. Oh, boy.
I'm actually surprised Chris Paul is not more well-liked universally.
It doesn't shock me at all. I've never met Chris Paul, never interviewed him, but I'm telling you, this is the guy who was the greatest player in Clippers history. We could argue that, right? Spent 6 years there. One of the best players in Clippers franchise history. His team hated him. I'll never forget the Bill Plaschke column in the LA Times this year after Chris Paul tried to go to the locker room. Remember the Houston Clippers fight? And Austin Rivers and Chris Paul did not get along. Doc Rivers and Chris Paul did not get along. DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, on down the line. Like, Chris Paul for as good as he was not loved in Los Angeles with the Clippers. Kenyon, I can't wait to hear the stories from that locker room.
Listen, he made a lot of guys rich.
Yeah, definitely.
He's not he plays defense, so he's not one of these guys that gives you half a game.
Oh,
And the other thing is, New Orleans, Clippers, Houston, he set regular season records, so he wins. Like, aren't you a little bit surprised?
I mean, I'm not, because I've heard a lot of what Kenya said. I mean, one thing Kenya didn't say that I've heard a lot of is he's just hard on teammates, too. He's always yapping, telling guys what to do, directing them. Yeah. And he doesn't really take the blame himself, even when he has deserved it.
That's a true leader.
He won't take it himself. So, look, my interactions with Chris have been fine, but everything Kenya said I had heard, and I'm not surprised.
Let me ask you one thing. Like, a lot of guys come into this league, and I'm not knocking players because you guys come into the league at 21, 22, but you want to make some money, find some cute girls, and have a good time, and get a shoe deal, and I'm okay with that. And then when you get older, you want to win. You know, a lot of guys come in, then the second contract, third contract, you want rings and titles. I would think Chris Paul does stuff that other players, a lot of them, don't want to do. He deals with management. He deals with coaches. He coaches on the floor. A lot of guys come into this league, they want to make money. They want to get a shoe deal. They want to have fun. Like, he's doing a lot of the stuff other guys don't want to do, isn't he?
Not necessarily. He just put himself in a situation to do those things. You know, it's just like opportunities there for everybody to do the stuff that he does. But it's just who wants, like you said, who wants to do it, who doesn't, what fits certain guys, what doesn't fit certain guys. But no, like, he's a hell of a basketball player. He goes out and he does his job well. Take nothing away from his career. He's been a great basketball player. But like you said, there's other things that rub people the wrong way.
Let me ask you, he's the president of the Players Association.
Yes.
How does that land for players?
I don't hold too much weight, but historically it's not a sexy job, a job that guys who so-called quote-unquote superstars would want. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot to do with a lot of nonsense, basically, like paperwork and phone calls, emails all the time. Like, who wants to deal with that? That normally goes for guys who had decent careers.
Yeah.
Decent careers, but you know what I'm saying, that's for them to do, so to speak.
You know, we know who he's tight with, right? LeBron James, his banana boat friend. And LeBron is very demanding of teammates. We know that. That's well documented. The one difference is LeBron has carried inferior teams to the finals. The Cavs in, I believe, 2008. Chris Paul, can you be that demanding when you're not coming through and delivering in the playoffs? I just wonder if that just wears on people, on DeAndre Jordan, on Blake Griffin.
You get tired of, like, when you're in the game situations and it's always like of course, you expect your coach to be that, and you expect your point guard to be vocal, but when it's too much all the time, every game, like, it starts to become like a nagging aunt or your grandmother or something. And you want to just, man, shut up. You know what I'm saying? But in the heat of the moment, you can't do that. So then it just, over time, year in, year out, it's the same thing. Year in, year out, it's the same thing. You know, so for some people, by the time the playoffs start, you like,
you don't want to hear it.
This guy.
And I think
then you start losing. In this case,
and he's going to blame you.
He ain't been
He's
out
not
the
taking
second.
the blame.
Not at all. I'm saying, so that just rubs some guys the wrong way. Then you go in the coach's office during the playoffs, and then you close the door behind you. Now you're like, what's going on in there? You know what I'm saying? So, like, what y'all in there talking about that don't include us? Like, we losing together. Like, what y'all in there talking about? You know what I'm saying? So then all the whispers start, and it leads to speculation, like I said earlier, man.
And I think, as Kenya said, there's a difference between respecting him for his game. Like, he's got that, obviously. Yeah. And liking playing with him. And I think Kenya would say he's not speaking for every single player in the league. You know, I know when he played in New Orleans, he got along with Tyson Chandler. And, you know, he has had guys he's gotten along with. But all the things, the chirping, the attitude, the yelling, the politics, I've heard a lot of that.